This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
You're always this stupid. Did you take lessons? Just calm down.
Oh, fuck you!
You can't handle the truth.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
In other words, be nice, asshole.
Use mine that are up there, but you'd probably be able to see into the fucking future. And I have to. So they sent me a thing the other day talking about, you need to come get your eyes checked. It's been more than 6 months now because that chemo fucked up my eyeballs so bad.
The chemo, right?
Yeah, it messed up my eyes so bad that now I have trifocals.
Oh my god!
Look through my glasses right there. Like, look at them. They're progressive, so there's no lines, but still.
Oh my god! Oh my god, you can see through those?
Yeah.
That's a little intense, my
love. Especially when I'm driving, I have to wear them. At night, I have to wear them when I'm driving, when I'm on my computer, when I'm trying to read something. Like if I'm looking at Facebook, my face is all scrunched up.
Yeah, I
but on my phone, yeah, no, if I'm trying to really do something, yeah, I was trying to hook up my little sound bar last night, and I had to put my glasses on. It was like 10 o'clock last night. I'm standing in here with my lights were all on, and then I had my flashlight on my phone on so I could figure out which thing I had to plug it into on the back of my TV. Mm-hmm. So with my glasses on, the directions, my phone with the flashlight on, like I have all because I can't see a fucking thing. No. Nothing. So
I tend to take pictures of instructions.
And then enlarge them. I have to do that too. Yeah. Yeah, I do that all the time too. If it's something that I really, really, I'm like, okay, what the fuck does this say? Because I have no goddamn idea what anything, no.
Oh, God. Well, welcome to another episode of qasincucumber, the podcast where we point and laugh at stupid customers, companies, and coworkers alike. I'm Laura Mack.
And I'm Tanya Edwards.
Okay, so couple things. First of all, just right off the bat, the number of emails from you guys, at the end of our last episode, I talked about my Uncle David passing away, and I got so many nice messages from you guys. So thank you so much. It really meant a lot. But there's a couple things I want to get to because obviously for the next however long this podcast is going to be required Theranos stuff because the trial's begun. So just know that we're still going to try to get to your emails and stuff, but a lot of this is going to be Theranos centered. And we're getting a lot of new listeners who are finding us because they're looking for this story. So there were a couple of comments here, and then one comment that inspired an idea. So we'll get there. All right. So some of the comments I did want to call out there's one comment from, I like her YouTube handle, because I only see comments for the show on YouTube. I don't see them on, I don't get notifications or anything on, any sort of podcasting platform, like Stitcher or Spotify or anything. I have no clue. But the YouTube ones I see. So this is from Babelicious.
Babelicious.
I think. Oh, no, it's not Babelicious.
Duchess is next to you so you don't jump up because she's going to give you the juju's.
I see you.
Hello, my Dutch girl. Sorry, my cat just walked in
I don't know
room.
how to say Babelous. I don't know. It's probably super obvious and my brain is just not engaging. But this was the nicest compliment. I stared at it for a long time and was like, oh my God, thank you. She commented, your Elizabeth Holmes coverage is top notch. Love your level of deep detail. Keep it coming, you rock. Considering how much is out there about Elizabeth Holmes, that you think that our little, we're not involved in this story. We're not journalists or anything, but you think that our coverage is top notch. That was really, I was like, oh,
right.
That meant a lot.
To be honest, Laura does a lot of the research. Yeah, because that one is all Laura because I didn't even know about this stuff at all.
The show is both of us, so I appreciate that. So thank you. There was a couple more comments. Somebody else named Dr. Gary Hatcher commented, good job. My money says she gets convicted. I don't know.
I don't know, because there's this whole, this whole privilege thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that some people are going to think that, well, who did it hurt? I mean, it was just a scam. But then part of me says, it was a fucking scam.
Oh, no.
Look how many people could have been hurt.
Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. So we'll finish going through these really quickly. But Alexandra, who we called out, and this is where I came to the idea. Alexandra, who I gave a shout out to last week as leaving a lot of nice comments, she said something that I was like, wait. What? This exists? She said, thank you so much for the love you mentioned. You guys are too funny, but also on top of the facts. Then she said, did you get a chance to listen to the Ebola chapter of the Bad Blood final chapter? And I was like, I don't remember that at the end of the book. Like, I didn't know what she was talking about. And I was like, I guess I'll have to go back and listen to the end of the book again. And she was like, oh, no. It's not part of the book. It's a podcast.
Oh.
So what John Carreyrou has done after he wrote the book, he's gotten way more information. So he's started this podcast that just started a few weeks ago that is going to air throughout the trial.
Oh.
So she pointed me to this, and I binged the fuck out of it. And her and I were pretty much just having a conversation through the comments. But basically, and we got some more nice comments from K Dawn, who's another one of our awesome listeners. But Alexandra told me about this podcast, and she's like, I'm expecting some deep dives. And I had an idea. I want to know what you think about this.
Okay.
So with Alexandra in particular, I would really like to have you be the first person we do this with. But she's the one who pointed us to that podcast. What would you think about doing a remote session and having some of our listeners as guests on the show?
I think that would be
to
fun.
talk about this.
I think that would be cool.
Because, we're not major players in this. We're not going to get an interview with John Carreyrou. Are you kidding me? Of course not.
Right.
But one of the things that...
juror number 8 is going to come knocking on our door.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm here.
Alexandra said... She pointed out at the beginning of the Theranos series, our deep dive on it. I said at the beginning of it, this is all I want to do. This is all I want to talk about now. Like, truly. And she commented, sames. And I feel like a lot of people have different perspectives, just normal people like us.
Yeah.
And I'm down to talk about it with them. And Alexandra, you pointed this out. We have a third-party app or a website that we use. All you need is a headset with a mic, like a gaming headset. And you log on and we can see each other. It wouldn't be on video. It just records the audio, but we would be able to see each other. If you would be interested in being on the show and we can talk about those, because I'm not really going to go too much into those podcast episodes today. I'll just touch on a few things I grabbed from them. But if you're interested, reach out to qasincucumber@yahoo.com. Or if anybody else who's been listening to this wants to be on the show, I'm super down.
Right, even for anything, like not just the Theranos thing, but like anything, if something like, like if there's an opinion that you feel really strongly about that we haven't mentioned, I've just been like, it's real. All these lovely comments have just been so nice of people really responding so positively to the Elizabeth Holmes coverage. So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it. So let's get into this week. There's a lot. Okay, so a couple of articles. This one is from Slate.com, and it is by Shannon Paulus on Slate.com. And the title of the article was, do we really have to feel bad for Elizabeth Holmes? Absolutely not.
Thank you. I could sum up the whole article. No.
Right.
No, we do not. But she says, basically she's talking about these allegations that she's going to make against Sunny Balwani being this controlling, abusive, manipulative, whatever. She says, it's very important to note that the allegations came to light not through a statement from Holmes directly, nor through reporting that would have verified these claims. They're made through a court filing. Holmes's lawyers are leveling the allegations not to seek justice from Balwani, but as part of the defense strategy in the fraud trial. The court filing requests that Holmes be tried separately from Balwani instead of together as originally planned, as his presence in the courtroom with her would be triggering. You want to talk about triggering?
This is why we have to have the movements, these women marches and everything else. And this is why women aren't believed. Men too. This is why people in general aren't believed whenever something happens to them, because you can't use it as your fucking defense whenever you don't want to go to prison because you broke the fucking law.
Exactly.
That's not how this works.
Sorry.
This is why we have to have Me Too, because of bitches like that.
Absolutely.
That shit, don't use it. The only reason you're not co-conspirators or co-whatevers in this whole fucking case is because it might trigger you. Fuck the fuck off. Really,
Yeah.
bitch. You cannot, this is what pisses me off so bad. And I am all for believing every woman, any man, any child, anybody who comes to me and says that this has happened, that something like that has happened. But whenever you use it as a legal fucking defense, I just don't feel like it's quite as true, because I think they were both probably manipulating one another. Based on what we know, it was probably a whole tit for tat kind of thing.
Well, that's one of the things that we'll talk about in the deep dive that we're going to do, because he read through a lot of her texts, their texts between the two of them. And guess what? If anybody was manipulating somebody, it was her manipulating him. When you read the text, that's my read on it. Yeah, he's firm with her, and yeah, he's like, look, I don't like, but he's saying in these messages as well, I haven't agreed with how you've handled X, Y, and Z, but you did it anyway. That would indicate to me, if he was under such control, why is he saying in these unguarded moments through text messages that you're not listening to him?
Right, because I guarantee you, if he was that controlling and you were that afraid of him, if you didn't listen to him, bitch, you would not. Yeah. So don't. It pisses me off.
But what's interesting about the first episode of John Carreyrou's thing was talking about her pregnancy, and he said what we said at the time. It's difficult, and she knows it, to say, oh, she only got pregnant because, she's trying to look sympathetic. That kind of statement is harsh and is mean.
It is.
And she's forcing people to be that harsh. And
you know what? You can't expect to handle you with kid gloves. You really can't. When you have, for one, been a monster, and you came up with this whole grand scheme to basically misdiagnose, mislead, fuck people over, however you want to put it, like you knew you were doing this shit. You knew you were doing it. So for you to sit up here and act like, oh, it's wrong for people to think I'm just trying to play a victim. No, what do you think we're going to think?
At this point, you are the boy who cried wolf over 10,000 times. I really don't know how else to frame it. But he does call it out. It makes us sound deeply cynical, but at the same time, it's so fucking obvious that it's hard not to be cynical. It really is.
I mean, if somebody, so you believe, how do I put this? If somebody tells you 50 times, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And at the 51st time, they're still doing it. Do you still believe them? It's kind of like that, and it is kind of boy who cried wolfish. It's really... Remember that episode of The Simpsons whenever Bart was supposedly down a well or whatever, and he was just really... I feel like this is that kind of sticks in my head with this part. Because it's just her really just trying to get sympathy. And I feel bad because if she really had a baby, good luck to her. Good luck to her. But imagine the struggle, this kid is going to go through later on whenever they find out that their mom was a fucking monster mastermind behind a huge medical scam. Yeah.
That hurt people.
That hurt people. That really...
That hurt a lot of people.
Yeah, some people... It boggles my fucking mind.
It really does.
Because if somebody came to me and said, look, we have this magic machine. If you put a drop of your blood in there, we're going to tell you da-da-da-da. Fuck right off. Because I just don't buy your snake oil.
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay, so continuing on that article, it says, maybe we will get more information on what happened in the coming weeks. Maybe her lawyers will have evidence that changes things or complicates them even further. Right now, though, stuck between the poles of believe women and, well, maybe not believe this woman.
Right.
And then she puts in parentheses, believe women has never meant believe all women. She's right.
She's right.
Believe women does not mean believe all women. Like,
No.
it's just not. We don't actually know what the interiority of Sunny Balwani's and Elizabeth Holmes's relationship was like. While it seems clear that so much of Theranos was her own, we don't know whether he controlled her in big ways or in small, if there were interactions that fit a recognizable definition of partner abuse, or if there was just 100 small moments that happened between a woman and a man who had a 20-year age gap and met when she was 18. Holmes can be held accountable for her wrongdoings while also having been deeply hurt. That statement is key. You can, if all this is true, it does not absolve you of guilt.
And it doesn't give you the right to do the shit that you've done.
Thank you. And then she puts, it's possible to be both victim and villain.
I mean, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. But like I said, you can't use your past or traumas or whatever's happened to you to justify you being an asshole or a
Right.
shitty person or a crook or
Right.
whatever. And I've said that forever. I mean, you don't get a free pass because you had a shitty childhood.
No.
I had a real shitty childhood, but you know what? I haven't murdered anybody.
Thank
I haven't
you.
robbed any fucking banks. I haven't,
you.
I don't know.
I haven't endangered hundreds of thousands of lives.
Right.
Like, just so you know. Okay, so we're kind of going to be a little all over the place as far as topics go, because a lot of different articles came out this week. Prosecutors did make their opening statements, but we'll get there here in a minute. There is something else. Oh, these text messages. Let's talk about this bullshit. This is from BusinessInsider.com by somebody named Sarah Jackson. And she says, a new court filing in Elizabeth Holmes' fraud trial shows texts to her ex-boyfriend and former COO that could play a key role in prosecuting the Theranos founder. And then it's got two quotes. The article starts with two quotes. First one is, all my love. And the next quote is, missing you infinite. So went one text exchange between Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes and Ramesh Sunny Balwani, who was once her boyfriend, as well as the president and chief operating officer of Theranos. Prosecutors in Holmes's highly anticipated fraud trial released 6 pages of text correspondence from the former couple on Tuesday that offer a glimpse into their romantic relationship. They also provide a window into their apparent scramble to go on the offense against those who threatened to raise allegations that the company misrepresented its tests. All messages released in the filing were sent between May and July 2015, not long before Theranos' catastrophic implosion. Here are some of these text messages.
Oh, God.
You are breeze in desert for me, my water and ocean, Holmes wrote in one series of texts to
watching
Balwani.
Game of fucking Thrones?
No clue. Madly in love with you and your strength, Holmes texted Balwani later that evening. Balwani sent a message saying, CC'd you on terrible negative review from someone from Newark Lab, probably Bugs Lab, working on getting that removed. Balwani, apparently there was some article that came out or something, and he was fighting with whoever the source was to take it down. Balwani said in a text, I saw it and we'll get them. Holmes responded, I saw it and we'll get them. Then Holmes texted him, feel like the luckiest person in the world because I have you. Holmes texted later that day. Balwani says, we will come up with good response to questions and we can turn this around, Balwani said in another message. Holmes said, need to get out ahead of it. Out of all challenges are greatest opportunities. Sometimes, okay. Once and for all, transcend all the BS. And Balwani wrote, all my love, missing you infinite, Holmes replied. Apparently they were super lovey-dovey through text messages. Now, I don't really understand. I understand we don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors, but that to me doesn't sound like somebody who's just so traumatized.
No.
No. Bader. Cheryl Bader, a law professor at Fordham Law School and former assistant U.S. attorney, said, I think the jury will read these texts as evidence of a co-equal partnership in a close and loving relationship. Not that one person had basically authority over the other one. These texts are strategic planning thread peppered with expressions of affection and mutual admiration that the prosecution will argue undermines Holmes's claim that she was being controlled or abused. Bader added, the defense will caution the jury not to read too much into a text thread and may argue that if anything, it shows how devoted, dependent, and controlled Holmes was by Balwani.
None of that seemed controlling, though.
No, it didn't. So they're releasing some of these texts. They're super damning. The texts are... They fucking knew, because the government has to prove intent, that they intended to defraud people, okay? And their argument has been, well, we thought it did work and blah, blah, blah. No, looking at these text messages, you damn well knew it didn't.
Right.
You damn well knew.
Right, especially whenever she talks about how you have to cut them off or head them off or whatever she said. That's...
yeah. Okay, so...
Like they were texting about damage control, basically.
Right. Now, this is part of the opening argument that I'm just like, yeah, in this case, it is. So, with the opening statement by Holmes's defense attorneys, their argument is Elizabeth Holmes did not go to work every day intending to lie, cheat, and steal. An attorney for Holmes.
Oh, that was just a perk?
Yeah, I know. I didn't plan on it, but you know what? It was a happy accident. Fuck off.
Pay me.
The government would have you believe that her company and her entire life is a fraud, because it is.
Right.
Holmes, 37, he says, worked herself to the bone for 15 years to make lab testing cheaper and more accessible. She poured her heart and soul into that effort. In the end, Theranos failed. And Ms. Holmes walked away with nothing. But failure is not a crime. Trying your hardest and coming up short is not a crime. Motherfucker, I swear to God, if this was a situation where you tried to create this magic box, okay, and it didn't succeed, then I would say you are correct. But you tried to create this magic box and you lied to people saying that it did work, putting their lives and their health in jeopardy. That is a crime. This is not, oh, she tried and she failed. No.
Right, you tried and you passed your failure off
as success.
And that's against the law whenever you, especially when you have charged people, defrauded how many insurance companies?
Thank you.
And given false reports or medical reports or results, whatever you want to call them, to all of these people.
That statement jumped out at me like failure is not a crime. No, it's not.
It's not. But lying and defrauding people and giving false records is.
So something that jumped out to me in listening to the podcast with John Carreyrou. There's a moment in you and me's shared past that I'm going to reference. I am going to cut it out of the episode because it was deeply private, but I do want to just remind you of it so you understand kind of what I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. That moment of absolute hearing it in black and white panic, okay, that I had that exact same feeling that we had in listening to this podcast. Because John Carreyrou is talking about the people that are going to testify about their bad results.
Right.
Right? One of them, now we've used examples like, it says your heart is fine when you're about to have a heart attack, or said you have cancer when you don't.
Right.
Never thought about this one, but when it was said, I instantly paused the podcast and was like, one woman got a false positive AIDS test.
Oh my God. And
she had to live with that for weeks, before she could afford to go get a real test.
That is horrible.
One woman was told that she was about to have a miscarriage when her pregnancy was perfectly fine and viable. They might have done like a DNC and aborted the baby Like, because they thought he was gone. Had they relied on those test results?
Right.
Like, are you
Right.
kidding me? Now, what I do think is a little fucked up is the judge has said that those people can testify. But I didn't know that the judge said they can testify, but they're not allowed to talk about the personal, emotional, financial, or any sort of result of getting those bad results, which I think is kind of fucked
That's kind
up.
of stupid because, okay.
But then again, and this is John Carreyrou's point, jurors aren't stupid. They can put themselves in the place of somebody getting a false positive HIV test. It's not that hard of a leap. You don't necessarily need to say it, but at the same time, I feel like, why can't they?
Right.
This
like-
is the real life consequence of what she fucking did.
And this is what I was talking about earlier about her getting off due to privilege.
Yep.
Because if I would have gave a bunch of people a bunch of false positives or false negatives, they would have had every fucking person that I ever thought about testing talking, and I would have had to pay all that fucking money back. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's that privilege. It's that privilege.
Very much so. That bout flipped my wig. I swear to God. So this other article came out. Now, there wasn't much that happened this week because there was somebody on the jury that was exposed to COVID-19. He wasn't experiencing symptoms, but over the weekend, he went to like a barbecue or something, and then he found out that
Somebody
there had it. So they kind of are quarantining and testing and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of had to put everything on
They didn't
hold.
use her fancy machine?
Yeah, I know. Ugh. Just use the machine. It'll be
Just
fine.
use her machine. It'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. If
Did
it
she
works.
let them use that machine on her new baby?
You know what? She is really one of the things that they discuss a lot, or John Carreyrou talks a lot about in the podcast, is this idea that she is going to basically win them over with her charm.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just too much of a scarred bitch.
But
I just could not.
But here's what I find interesting. One of the interviews Carreyrou did in these episodes was with a civil attorney who filed a lawsuit against her, and he got all kinds of fucking documents from her for that lawsuit. And after they were done with their deposing her, everybody had left the room. He was still in the room, the lawyer who was bringing the lawsuit against her. She came back in the room to get this pile of papers. And some of them slipped, and the papers just went everywhere, all over the floor. Well, he's standing there. He's a gentleman, right? So he bends down, and he's helping her pick everything up, right? And he said that when they stood up, he was like, she looked me, like, it was like she looked through me and said, "Thank you." He's like, and I immediately got this feeling of like, oh, I matter to her. Like, there is just something about her, seeing her in person, that some people just, even when they know she's a fucking fraudster, he was like, whoa, where did that feeling come from? What the fuck?
That's typical narcissist behavior.
But she's able to pull it off.
And a majority of narcissists are almost enamored by their presence.
Absolutely.
And that's what a narcissist does.
And here's what's interesting about that. She has argued that she does not want to wear a mask in court because she wants them to see her full face.
Of course.
She knows this is why we don't believe her when it comes to the pregnancy stuff. Like, when you are doing things that are so blatantly obvious what you were trying to do, it's fucking hard not to be like, well,
here goes this bitch again.
Here's this bitch.
Right.
Like, we're back again.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me.
Yeah. But that's true. That's classic narcissist behavior. Like, because you just get so like, oh my God, we're going to get to see them today. And that's how they want people to feel. That's how they want people to feel about them.
Of course. Now, apparently she's also hiding out in a $135 million estate somewhere in Silicon Valley during the trial.
She's like hiding out.
Apparently.
Her baby, her nanny, and...
Yeah. There's a couple other just kind of little tidbits here from the podcast I wanted to reference. The judges ruled that the prosecution can't bring up the missing database unless the defense brings it up first. Right? So they they've pretty much said, well, because we don't have definitive proof over who, blah, 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 whose fault this is,
Right.
basically we're just not going to talk about it. Do you want me to lift that up?
No, I got it.
Okay.
I just had to move it so that it would stop spinning.
Oh, okay. So...
It's like the pink elephant or whatever you call it, like
right, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, like ooh, we know it's there.
We know it's there,
but we're not going to talk about it.
But honestly, it can be real easy for it to be introduced, and here's why. The judges ruled the prosecution can't bring up the missing database unless the defense brings it up first. So the example that was used on the podcast in the guy that John Carreyrou was talking to, he said that if the defense says something like, well, where's the data proving all this?
I don't know. Why don't you
then
tell us?
They can, then the prosecution can say, okay, they just brought up the fucking database and why we don't have this, so let's talk about it.
Right. Right.
So the defense just has to slip, it seems like, a little bit. And the whole database thing.
Can you imagine how much she will have a meltdown if they
Oh,
do?
good Lord.
I would pay good money. I would pay $29.95 on the pay-per-view.
Thank you.
To watch her have a fucking meltdown of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Because her team accidentally said something like that.
Well, there was one moment where they were talking about how during the surprise inspection of the lab that was generated because of Erica Chung's whistleblower complaint, she apparently had marveled to other employees that why is it that such lowly people are getting so much authority and power to just come in here and make us drop everything? I'm so sorry that you think they're beneath you, bitch. But guess what?
Right.
It's called the law, and you are not above it.
But she probably, like I said, in true narcissist form, they think that they are above the law, though. They think they're above...
They do.
God. They think they're above family, law, everything. Because they are the be-all, end-all of everything.
But I'm Elizabeth Holmes.
Right, and in her mind,
And?
she's just come up with the best medical marvel type machine in the history of all mankind. So now everybody is beneath me because I'm a fucking genius. And when you just love to even take a glimpse of me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's and nobody should be able to come in here and tell me how to run my miracle machine. And that's what it is. I mean, that's a true narcissist form.
It's just fucking wild, man. The overall theme of the defense seems to be that they've eliminated as much technical data as they can, and just ignore it, and then present an emotional argument to the jury. Basically, they call it the Svengali defense, where you're saying that you were, hypnotized by this incredibly charismatic person and made to do things you wouldn't normally do. This is going to be a challenge with the text messages between the two, but okay.
Right.
Essentially, what they seem to be going for is a jury nullification strategy, which is basically the jury saying, yeah, we know you did commit these crimes, but we're going to cut you a break. That seems to be what they're trying to...
We know it was a one-off.
Yeah.
It
was just, we'll give you a mulligan.
Oh, yeah. You had your fingers crossed? Okay.
Oh, you know what? Okay.
Yeah. You had your fingers crossed, so, you're good to go now. What the hell ever? You know what?
Now,
if I go and do some fucked off stuff to a bunch of people for the first time, I go rob a bank, or if I go and, start beating people upside the head in the park with a hammer, do I get to yell, I had my fingers crossed? No. Fuck you.
Of course fucking not.
So it's the same shit.
It really is just, but the one last
that's that
thing.
privilege again.
Right. The one last thing about Elizabeth Holmes we'll talk about today is the going back to the whole baby thing.
I want to see this baby.
I know, right?
If it's a fucking Cabbage Patch Kid, I'm going to punch that bitch in the eye.
If John Carreyrou talked to a whole bunch of people of jury consultants, right? And they said that this gambit that she's taken with the baby might actually backfire on her, because with the amount of evidence that's out there, the likelihood that you would be convicted is pretty high. Some jurors may think it's fucking irresponsible that she chose to have a baby right before she could be sentenced to 20 years in fucking prison.
That's a good...
So what
I
they
see
said
that.
was, like, don't just think that because they think that this is going to work, it's going to give her sympathy, doesn't mean it will.
Right. And that
gives me some hope.
I mean, that makes absolute sense. Like, what kind of a dumbass gets pregnant in the middle of a fucking trial where you could go to prison for however many years?
Especially when the federal government comes after you.
Right.
I'm sorry, 83% as of 2018, 83% of cases brought by the federal government resulted in a conviction. Okay? And if you count the people that took plea bargains, it's 91%.
Right.
The odds are not with you, ma'am.
The odds are not ever in your favor.
Thank you. Okay?
No, but that is absolutely irresponsible.
It
Like,
is.
You know, okay, everybody can wear everything, everybody could take all the necessary precautions, all that stuff, and things happen. Mm-hmm. But in this situation, I feel like it was very well, it was planned out. It was not an oopsie kind of deal.
No.
It was something that, okay, well, who would send a new mother to prison? Mm-hmm. Who would? Bitch, I watched Love After Lockup. Mm-hmm. This bitch on here last night had a 6-month-old baby, and they put her ass in prison for the last 6 years. So they will lock you up.
Absolutely they will.
You can still be pregnant and they'll lock you up.
Like, I'm really hoping. Dear God.
I mean, I never want to see anything bad to happen to anybody, and I don't want anybody to lose custody of a child or anything like that.
I certainly don't want the child to be parentless.
Right.
Like, that's...
Right. But then...
But at the same time...
What sort of weird shit is she going to pull on this kid? Like... You know, in 9 years at the science fair is little, Bernie or whatever this kid's name is.
Right.
Is this poor kid gonna come up with some sort of like life-saving machine as well?
Right.
And it just bothers me. Mm-hmm. It really bothers me. I don't know what she could do as a parent.
No, I
don't feel like she has this child's best interest in mind one damn bit.
Yeah. That's
just saying. That's my opinion.
No, she's not.
She's a fucking nut.
She is. So I know we're doing we're covering a lot of Theranos stuff right now. So we haven't gotten to your emails, but I promise next episode we will do some emails. But I got too wrapped up in this week of just like, what the fuck? Listen to that podcast was amazing. It's only about 4 episodes at this point, but. And I'm purposefully not talking about specifically what that chapter was about because I want to hear from you first because I would love to explain that episode to Tanya with you because it's going to flip her out.
Oh, good Lord. She just likes seeing my face when she tells me really screwy stuff.
I do very much enjoy it.
She enjoys my facial expressions and
your knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, like what the fuck is going? Yeah, where I just look totally
perplexed,
baffled for like 5 minutes while I'm trying to think about. Wait, what? Did I hear that shit right?
You're like, I am so confusion. What is happening?
Absolute confusion again. What's going on? I am, as Sophia puts it, cornfuzzled.
Cornfuzzled.
That's what she calls it.
That's going to be the name of this. Elizabeth Holmes, Cornfuzzled.
Cornfuzzled.
There we go. All right. So keep sending those stories. If you guys see stuff about this case that you want us to talk about, send it our way. If any of you would like to be guests on the show talking about this, we obviously have a way to do it. Reach out to us. I'm super down.
Me too.
I feel like we're getting this little community of people together
right.
who like to talk about.
Hey, and if you just want to call in and talk shit sometimes,
let us know.
Yeah, I'm always down.
There you go. All right. So until next time, I'm Laura Mack.
And I'm Tanya Edwards.
Love your faces.
Smooches.
Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. And follow us on our Facebook page by searching Q as in Cucumber. Don't forget to check out our other show, hosted by me and Jessica James, called The Parent Memoirs. And we want to hear from you. Share your stories by emailing us at qasincucumber@yahoo.com, and you might just hear your stories on a future episode. Love your faces.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.